Hello and welcome to the Bad Dice. On this episode I'm going to be talking about the Alliance event. It's been a week or so now since we've run and the event's been won, and I'm just going to go into it in a bit more detail and talk about what went on at the event, some of the highlights, and also go into some of the army lists that took place and the top three, certainly the winners at the event, and talk about how they what they took and how they used their lists, particularly the synergies between battle line units and how they fit into the list, and also the command traits and artifacts and how they made the best of them. Okay, so it was 54 players in the end, one dayer, pretty good. I was really impressed with how many people turned out. We had a good turnout from all over the country as well, people travelling some real miles to come to a single one-day event, which was fantastic to see. So shout outs particularly to Mark, who came from the Isle of Wight, and also the Aberdeen lot, who came all the way down from Scotland, and it's quite close between them, opposite ends of the country, or opposite ends of the United Kingdom, and meeting in the middle in Derby. So that was really cool to see. It'd be interesting to check if they actually played each other, but I don't know that one offhand. So that was really cool. One good thing was we sold a load of t-shirts at the event, so if you've seen the Alliance t-shirts, and if you're watching the YouTube, I'll put the pictures up now. You can check them out on the show notes for this episode as well. A load of Alliance t-shirts were picked up. That was really cool. Thanks for the support on them, because selling the shirts and the dice and things like that, it lets me do things like game mats for future events and putting terrain on the tables at the events, and also running the forums. Quite expensive, the forums to run. I've seen Bolton and Chainsword. They want $3,000 a year to run their forums, and you know they're a lot bigger than us, but there are still costs involved. So people picking up things like that, it's really helpful. So thanks to everyone who picked them up. So the event, the armies at the event, it was really good to see a massive, widespread list of armies. Now I've got the results here in front of me, and there was actually all four of the different Grand Alliances in the top four, which was really nice to see. Order, Destruction, Chaos, and then fourth place was Death. And then when you look at the top 10, there was quite a good mixture as well. It wasn't just dominated by one particular faction or alliance. So it was really cool to see not only these armies out in force, but also doing equally well, whereas a lot of the time you see one tends to dominate. But no, not the case here. Okay, some highlights from the armies then. So the third place list was Andy Bryan, and he actually brought the Wall of Nurgle. And I've got his list in front of me. It's Great Unclean One, who's the general. He had the battle trait Unpredictable Destruction, because it's just the Chaos one. The command trait was Great Destroyer, and the item was the Chaos Talisman. Now, what's cool about that, the Chaos Talisman, if he fights against Order, not only is he getting his Nurgle ability to ignore wounds, but he's also getting a 6+ ward against everything, which turns to a 5+ against Order. I'll just flick through my General's Handbook here, and the Great Destroyer is actually +1 to your rolls on your battle trait. So if you want to get your +1 to hit combat, it gives you +1 to units within 8 of the general, which is quite nice. So it means on a big base, Great Unclean One on a big base, it covers a lot more space of the table. So that was really cool. And the traditional Wall of Nurgle is just like a big block of troops, and they're all together and everything's in range. I don't know if you played it like that, but it would be how I played that combo. The rest of the list was a Herald of Nurgle. He had the War Squad Battalion for the Tally Band of Nurgle. 4 units, 40 Plage Bearers across 3 units, so 2 10s and a 20. There was battle line, and 2 units of 6 Plague Drones. Now I saw this army on the table. It was painted really nice as well, and I was kind of shocked at how big the army was. 2 Great Unclean Ones in there, both with the Chaos Talismans, Herald as well, and then just 2 units of 6 Plague Drones. That's 2 big hard units to shift. And if they're near any of them Nurgle heroes, they're doing mortal wounds. It's a really, really nice combo, really strong army, really hard to chew through. He's obviously done well to get himself into third place. Okay, so in second place, this was probably my favourite army at the event, and this was Paul Whitehead. And I've done some coverage on this already. You saw, if you've been following the forums, I posted up how Paul used some really cool tactics in Age of Sigmar to basically win second place overall by winning his game on table 2 in the last round. So he had 3 Frostlords on Stonehorns, 1 Thundertusk Beast Rider, so that's 4 Behemoths, and then 3 times 10 Savage Orruks, and that was the list. It was really small, 34 models, 30 of them being the same, another 3 of them being the same, so there's only 3 different unit types really. The Frostlord on Stonehorns, his general has got the Bellowing Tyrant, which can give a unit close to him +1 to hit. And another Frostlord has got Battle Brew. It's not the general. So I guess what he's doing is either double stacking that on the same model if he needs to, or he's spreading it out. So he's got 2 Frostlords on Stonehorns doing nasty stuff at the same time. So it's just a really powerful heavy shock army, and he's still got 30 Savage Orruks. That's 60 wounds worth of Orruks holding objectives. Now, I think over a 6-game event, he's probably still going to win 5 games without breaking sweat, just for the power of the list. I do think there's some scenarios you might struggle on, just not having bodies. It's all right when you need 1 model to stop your enemy claiming his objective, because you can just put a Frostlord into that objective. But when you need the most amount of models near an objective, there's going to be some instances where he's really going to struggle. Now, the battle plan's obviously go and just smash an objective with all your Frostlords, and then you only need 1 model there. If there's no enemy, you're the most. But I do think there could be a little more to that in some cases, particularly if he plays against another army that's fast and can really make him spread around the table a lot. He could struggle then, like the Nagash lists in the South Coast and Clash Comp, where Nagash was a powerhouse and you can bring the Blood Knights with him to cause some damage as well, but you just can't be everywhere all at once, and I think this is one of the things he might struggle with down the line using this list. But overall, it's painted really nice, it looked great on the table, it obviously got the power in it as well, and he played it well, and he's got himself in second place. Now, the winner of the event was Rob with his... he's actually using order. It was Sylvaneth with 3 Hurrinaums. Now, his list was 9 Hunters, 3 Gryph Hounds, 30 Glade Guard as his battalions, so it's 3 times 10. Battle lines, and then 3 of the Hurrinaums. And the idea of this is literally a gun line. It sets up in its castle, it picks an objective to defend, shoots everyone off another objective, and then you only need 1 one of the hounds to run over and capture an objective when there's no one on it. And that's that really. The Hurrinaums can do some real bad stuff when you shoot them, especially if you're focusing 9 Hunters and 3 Hurrinaums at the same target. You can really blow up units, and with it being ranged attacks as well, you can take advantage of battle shock, because if you're in combat, people can just say, well, I'll put Inspiring Presence on that unit and you're not going to be able to battle shock me. When you're shooting, you can just choose another target, assuming they're both in range, but with a decent amount of range on the shooting plus movement, and setting up central and moving forward a bit, it's really hard to defend every unit against it. So you can just pile all the shots into the unit that will just take 10 wounds and then take another 10 from battle shock. And it's easy for him to pick his targets, destroy them, and choose the next turn. And that's pretty much what happened. He won all 3 of his games by tabling his opponents. And I think in his last game, it came down to a charge that was failed on a 4 with a Mangler Squig having the chance to go through the lines and just rampaging. It done a fair amount of damage. But I think ultimately, I think he would probably still be up in that game. But I don't know, it might be nice to see it replayed or played again with that Mangler charge getting in. But I do think, the Hunters, when they do the defensive reroll armor saves, if they haven't moved, it's just so powerful. They don't need to move because they're happy to sit there and shoot. They don't, they can just go on the full defense, really conserve points and conserve wounds and keep shooting. And they're still not terrible in combat. There's still a lot of attacks because they're big models. And anything coming close, them Hurrinaums are really going to do some damage if you're firing 3 of them into the same unit. So overall, solid list. Again, I do think if he plays something like a real horde, maybe put 100 Bloodbound on the table against it or something like that, he's got a fair old chance of just getting ran over. But in a one-dayer, if you miss them, you're just going to smash people. And I think he scored 6,000 victory points, so he tabled all 3 of his opponents. So, yeah, did well and took out the win. So, all the lists for the event are actually going to be on the Bad Dice website. So you can go over to baddice.co.uk/lists, and there's an archive there of just a collection of lists from, I think, 3 different editions of the game now. There's hundreds of lists up there, army lists for different events, and thousands of lists, I imagine, if you break the events down, because some of the events are 100 players, and there's a fair old amount up there. Age of Sigmar is still growing, and I think there's probably 10 or so events on there so far for Age of Sigmar, so you can check out what's going on with Age of Sigmar up to now, and I think this will be the first General's Handbook event to go on my archive as well, so you can check that out. You can see, hopefully by the time you listen to this, there might be a couple of others. I know Reign of Stars, hopefully I can get the list on them. There's also, I think, Brothers of Sigmar this weekend over at the Bristol Independent Gaming Club. That's the big club down in Bristol. There's a doubles event going on there this weekend, so maybe I can get the list for them as well, but I'll give it a try. And you can check that out if you want to see what people are taking in the General's Handbook. If you're elsewhere in the world and your local guys are running their own events, because in the UK I'm normally fairly hot on gathering lists in, but elsewhere it can be a bit more difficult. So if you do have some lists that you'd like to go into the archive, just send them in. Just send them over to armylists@baddice.co.uk, or just message me on Twitter and ask where you can send them, and I'll stick them up on the archive as well. So, alright, I think that covers everything. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you, if I don't see you on Facebook Live during the week, I'll see you on next week's episode. Bye.